the 7-step signature system, but most importantly, the 4th step, which is tracking. And I think it's important to really hone in on tracking because that seems to be the first thing that we forget to do. And then all of a sudden, we're not making the progress we want to make. And then, boom, we're completely off the rails and we don't know why. And we're not sure what happened because we think we're doing okay. And then the scale starts to go up. We start to feel bad and we're just not sure. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the 7 steps, but most importantly, the 4th step, which is tracking. And so we all know the first step is opt in, right? Everyone has opted in. You're listening to this class. The next one is the education. Again, you opted into the class, you're getting the education. Then you've got accountability, and then you have tracking. And that's what we're going to stay today is tracking. I cannot stress enough the importance of writing things down because the principal behavior that we talk about, behavior that receives attention, is behavior that's repeated. And if we're not tracking, we can't figure out what it is we're doing that works. But when we are tracking, we can say, hey, we're having a great day. We've lost, we've done X, Y, and Z. We've lost this amount of weight, or we feel this much better, or we're fitting into these size clothes, however it is that we're measuring and tracking. And then we can say, okay, I'm going to rinse and repeat. And I was reading some of my personal development and I was reading a John Maxwell book and he has this quote in it. And I thought it was really just spot on. So when people know their work is being measured, their productivity increases. That's the concept of behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. And we can look at that in every aspect of our lives. And just think about it. We all have productivity trackers at work to measure, hey, what are we doing? Do we have the output that we're looking for? Are we reaching our goals? So we have these goals in all areas of our lives. We've got credit score trackers, right? Whether we want it or not, it's there. We have all of these measures all around us all the time. You can look at your bank account and you can track your spending. You can look at your receipts at the grocery store and track what you bought, right? Same thing for clothes everywhere. You can literally measure everything. Even Spotify has trackers. And that was another thing that kind of brought this to my attention because Spotify sent me it was my anniversary, Spotify anniversary. And they sent me, hey, here's the song you've listened to the most. Here's the artist you've listened to the most. Here's how many hours, how many times. I mean, how crazy is that? And the reason they do that is why? Because they want me to continue to engage with their platform. So they want to put out more content that I'm going to want to watch. That's the algorithm. We are surrounded by a world that literally thrives on tracking. And so if we're not tracking our food and our workouts and our water intake, and are we taking our supplements? Are we getting enough sleep? If we're not tracking those things, how can we possibly make adjustments? And just let that sink in for just a second, right? We track everything in our lives except for what gives us the energy to feel good, to look good, to be healthy. So why would we not track that when that's what's absolutely going to get us to the next level? That's going to help us reach our goals. But we allow everything else around us to be tracked. And therefore that enables companies to target us better. And then guess what? Before we know it, we're doom scrolling at 2 a.m. because the algorithm continues to track the things that we like to see. So we continue to engage on the different platforms. And the more we look at something, the more it continues to show up in our algorithm. So just let that sink in. And that's something that I didn't fully understand until I really started paying attention to social media when it came to business, right? Because I really wanted to curate my social media so that I didn't get the negativity on there. I wasn't getting the crazy stuff. And so when I would see something, and maybe I would read about it and maybe I'd be like, oh, I don't know. That's not what I want to be associated with. I might read it, but then I would put not interested because I don't want to see more things like that. So when we're thinking about that, again, behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. So if we constantly track the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, we can analyze them and we can make changes. And we can give lots of attention to the things that went right. And then we can minimize the attention to the things that didn't go right, and we can just simply change them. We can look at that and say, not interested. It theoretically, like metaphorically, I think that's the right word. But you can say, not interested. And that's the only attention you have to give to it. But you have to track, because if you're not tracking, it's not coming out on paper, and then you're constantly thinking about it. You're perseverating on it in your mind. Man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Man, I wish I would have made a better choice here, there, or wherever. Man, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z instead. But if you can just put it on paper and say, oh, yep, that wasn't the right thing, I'm not going to give a lot of attention to it. It's like delete, not interested, move on. Here's what I did right. I got my water in. I got my workout in. Hey, I had a great breakfast and lunch, and I even had a great snack, but it was just dinner where things just went awry. So I'm going to look at this and say, hey, I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to highlight the things that went right. So that's why I talk about, when you're tracking, highlight everything that went right that day, because that's giving extra added attention to the good things. And your subconscious is going to want to highlight as much as possible. And so then when people know their work is being measured, their productivity increases. So your subconscious knows that you're tracking. And so it's going to adjust to allow you to make the choices that's going to say, hey, I get to highlight this in my book. How cool is that? And I had an app a long time ago that measured the amount of fasting hours. This is when I was kind of experimenting with intermittent fasting. And it was so cool because the app had where it filled up the image of an animal the longer you fasted, because that's how much that animal fasts. And so you would have a goal of whatever animal you wanted to get that day. That's how long you had to fast. And it was so cool because, again, behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. They were rewarding you with really cool things. And then they stopped doing that. And I stopped using the app because it wasn't as fun anymore. It wasn't as exciting. But it was really cool to see. And that's that visual stuff that you have. Again, that's the tracking. That's the tracker. And you can make it fun. You can make it interesting. You can make those tracking things fun. And guess what? You can even write out when I hit my goal, and your goal could be, hey, I'm going to stay on track for X amount of days. And if I do that, then I'm going to treat myself to whatever, some activity you want to do, right? Like for me, I might say, okay, well, if I stay on track with my plan for the next month or two, I'm going to buy some great seats at a baseball game. And then you can track it. You can put stickers on your days up to it. You can, whatever you want to do, make it fun, right? You're not tracking the outcome because guess what? We can't control the outcome, but we can control our efforts. And so you're tracking the effort. And that's exactly what recording your food does. Not only does it allow us to educate ourselves, which is step 2, on what works and what doesn't, but it allows us to really track our efforts. Because sometimes you have to get really real with yourself and say, I'm not putting in the effort that I need to be putting into to get the outcome that I want. Now, if you're putting in the effort and you're just not getting the outcome, that's a different story. But chances are, I'd say 99 times out of 100, if you put the effort in that you need to, you're going to get the outcome. It may not be exactly when you want it, but you're going to make progress towards the outcome that you want. And so that's what's been really weighing pretty heavy the past couple of weeks, is just what's the concept of tracking and why is it important? And we all know we need to do it, right? It's part of the 7-step signature system, but why? And it's because it fits right in with the principle of behavior that says behavior that receives attention is behavior that's repeated. And if we don't know what behaviors we're engaging in that are working, we can't repeat them as easily. And then we're just kind of living blind and trying to figure it out. Okay, so I want us to commit over the next week to get very intentional about tracking everything. Track your food, track your water, track your sleep, track your supplements. And really track, is that moving you towards your goals? And I want you to really track the nutrition aspect of the food. So I want you to track the amount, not just what you ate, but how much did you eat? Because it makes a difference. Because sometimes you might be eating the right foods, but you're just eating too much, or maybe you're eating too little. And so get very intentional over these next 7 days to really track every little thing. And I want you to really start to see how your productivity towards your goals increases because you're giving a lot more attention to every detail. And it may seem a little daunting at first, but I promise you it gets easier and easier and easier because you're eating a lot of the same things. And so it's easy to write down what that looks like. Okay. So that is your assignment for the next 7 days, is to get very intentional and laser focused on what it is that you're tracking. And this is a little bit shorter class today because I just really want to drive home that 4th step, tracking only. That is what I want us to focus on this week, because I'm going to say this one more time. When people know their work is being measured, their productivity increases. And that's accountability too. That's accountability and tracking all rolled into one. All right. So I will see you back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. And in the meantime, I will see you in the comments, on text message, or in your coaching sessions if you are in a coaching program. So grateful for each and every one of you. And I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you back here next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'm wishing you all the success in all the tracking that you're going to do this week. Have a great week, everyone.